We're going to talk about a reloading aspect. This happens to be a 7mm Remington Magnum cartridge, a round that I have loaded. And once that I find the bullet seating depth that I want through various trial and error, then I use a small gauge. This is a gauge that I have made specifically for this purpose. This is a piece of rifle barrel. It's been turned true, squared off on the end, and has been reamed for a very short distance with the throating section of a reamer, or just simply a throater that throats the throat to proper dimensions on a barrel. This is only reamed about 1/8 of an inch deep. And I take this and I drop this down over the bullet. You see, there it is. And I take my dial caliper and I measure this dimension. And I write this dimension down. And I do my shooting, and maybe I'm at a point where I want to change my bullet seating depth. Maybe I want to lengthen it, or I want to shorten up the bullet seating depth to obtain better accuracy, a better standard deviation with my loads, or so forth. So I've already written down the dimension where I started. Now I adjust my seating stem on my seating die, bullet seating die, and I'll seat my bullet, say 10 thousandths deeper. And I use my gauge again to confirm. Just simply measure things. This is very simple. Just simply measure things to see where you're at. There are all sorts of different sort of gauges. There's things that are comparable to what this is. This is what I have used for, 40 some odd years. I've made these little gauges for all the calibers so that I can pick it up. I keep this all referenced for my loads for my particular rifle. And once I'm all finished, I don't pass the dimensions on to anybody else, because you don't have a gauge that's exactly like that. I've got a gauge for me to gauge my loads, to gauge the loads that I'm developing, and I simply pass on the overall loaded round length, which is the overall loaded round length of the cartridge, to the customer when I've worked up loads. But if you're going to duplicate the loads, you can use that dimension, but you also need a gauge. Hornady has something, various other outfits have something to measure the actual loaded round lengths. Now the other valuable aspect to this is, for instance, I'm using a 160 grain nozzle partition here. Now all of a sudden, maybe I want to shoot 150, or I want to shoot 140 or 175 grain nozzle partition. Well, I can get the same distance on my ammunition from the head of the shoulder to the point on the ogive that the gauge is measuring by using my gauge. So I can simply switch bullets, and I can adjust my seating stem for whatever bullet, no matter what it is, to that same dimension. Because obviously that was a sweet spot that I ended up with, and hopefully maybe it's going to work out that the next bullet that I use is going to find that it likes that same sweet spot. I'm not telling you that it is going to, but it can very often. So that is a starting point. That is a place to begin with adjustments. So without knowing this, you don't actually know what your contact is. Measuring the overall loaded round length does not tell you what the distance is from your lands. You've already determined that when you started loading by properly adjusting things, and then adjusted it for some clearance. And I normally start somewhere around, depending on the cartridge, somewhere between 10 and 30 thousandths, and that area there works very well. Now there are some times with maybe bench rest calibers and whatnot, I might want the bullet actually just not bearing, but touching the lands. And you got to understand that magazine inside dimensional links can change what you're able to load. So, you know, some bullets are designed different. The new bullets that we have for quite a few years here now, a lot of plastic tip type bullets that changes everything considerably. You might not have magazine box length enough to be able to get your bullet out there, depending on your rifle, the manufacturer of it, who built it, who chambered it, and so on and so forth. I can control these aspects here in my shop for a certain condition because of the machining that I do to get what I want. But this is what I do to be able to get the loaded round lengths that I want and know exactly how far that bullet is moving before it touches and then it starts to engage the rifling.